our brains like are really great at keeping us in these lanes to protect ourselves, right? But I knew life could be different. Like I knew life could be different. I knew there was more to life, right? There's this feeling that like life can be more meaningful, life can be more happy, life can be more than just working every day at a job I didn't enjoy and then drinking a lot on the weekends and then redoing it and eating at the same places and just like doing that and feeling and fighting with my partner and just like not finding meaning and not being of service or not doing whatever it was that like would bring joy to me. And I knew there was something more and I was willing to give it up.
This is the Bliss Realm podcast, where every moment is honored as sacred. I'm your host, Skylar Temple-Singer, and I'm having conversations with leaders, healers, the mystics, and so many more as we get curious about how to live a bliss-filled life simply through the everyday without bypassing our sadness or other feelings. We're diving deep into the great esoteric cosmos and even deeper into the flesh and feelings of what it truly means to be human so that we can live more harmoniously on this planet and within ourselves. So let's step into this portal together and explore the Bliss Realm. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this episode of the Bliss Realm, Radiance, Embracing the Unknown with Ayala Sophia. So we're talking about the choice today to change. We're talking about going from a fixed, logical, known place in life to moving down from the brain into the body, from the logic into the arrows, from the known into the unknown. And discovering that when you give up these so seemingly known types of life, that what you actually get and what you discover is to know who you truly are, to know who your spirit is, to know that eternal part of you that is always there. We're talking about how you are always perfect, even before you make this choice. So any part of you that feels like you need to change, know that you have always been perfect, even through these peeling back of the layers for you to shine as bright as the sun. I am really excited. This is a really beautiful conversation. Ayala is deeply connected to many different realms while being super anchored in her body. When I talk to her, I can feel how connected to the angel she is, but that it's not airy-fairy, it's not fake. She's really there. And she's bringing it here to the people. She is deep in her mission of sharing medicine, sharing guidance and meditation and different programs and courses with people. And I am really, really grateful and feel lucky to be able to share this transmission with you all today. So please enjoy this episode. We have a beautiful prayer that Ayala is going to start us with. And check the show notes to connect with her at the end. Enjoy, my loves. Okay, my friends, welcome to the Bliss Realm today. I have a very beautiful human seated in person across from me at my home in Lake Atitlan, and her name is Ayala Sophia, and she is going to start us off with a beautiful prayer.
Thank you so much for having me. Okay, yes, I'd love to open this space with a deep prayer of gratitude. So much gratitude for Skylar, for this beautiful angelic being who's called me into this space to channel and to share. So much gratitude for Lake Atitlan, for the spirit of the lake here, the reason that we're both here, the reason that so many beautiful souls are here, and really the source of so much transformation on my journey. So much gratitude for the spirits and angels and guides who are present with us, all with our highest and best interests in mind and in heart. So much gratitude for our hearts, for our willingness to open our hearts again and again, to speak from the heart, to share from the heart. And a deep prayer that these transmissions reach exactly who they're meant to reach, that we can channel truth and love and our own human journeys as well as inspiration and guidance for others. So thank you so much for this beautiful space that you've created. And I'm so happy to be here.
Yay! We're here.
Yay! We arrived.
We've arrived. We're here. It's happening. We're living.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. So, for everyone who's listening, I want to tell you how I met Ayala. And just my experience with this beautiful human, so you can know where we're coming from, how we're meeting each other today. And yeah, so I met Ayala back in May of this year, of 2023, at an event called Untethered, which is this adult summer camp hosted by some of our friends in Big Bear, California. We were in this beautiful cabin called the Clown Chakra Cabin. You will be hearing, you might have already heard the episode that I'm going to be releasing with Gary Underpants, who was the leader of our cabin of accessing your clown chakra. And yeah, that was like such a fun way to meet and just step into this sacred art of being vulnerable, being able to, we're both medicine women, we're both sound people and live in this wellness world. And to take all of that, but then to bring it into the wholeheartedness of being silly was great. And I really loved meeting you that way.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you for bringing it back to the OG moments. And Gary Underpants.
Yeah, that was really special. And I mean, I feel like we didn't get to drop in super deep then, but even then I could feel some kind of connections of lots of just powerful similarities happening. Okay, I know this person's gonna show back up. And you had been in Costa Rica right before me. Then you were in Koh Phangan, which is where I'm about to be in Thailand. And then now we're both living here at the lake. And I was just reflecting before we started recording to Ayala that there's right behind her is these big windows. And it took me a little bit to realize that it was coming from her, but I was seeing just this beautiful aura, rainbow with kind of turquoise and purple and gold just radiating up, and seeing how it feels easily accessible you are with your own inner light, how you touch your own inner light, but also how much you allow that to be seen by everyone. It's you can be in your angelic being, you can be in your earthly, divine presence, however it is, but it's sometimes we mask ourselves and we cloak ourselves. And I see you shining with so much pure love in such an embodied way. And yeah, I got to celebrate your birthday with you this week. I was so lucky to come over and experience some cacao and boban sauna and music and standing on a nail board and releasing pain from my feet. And yeah, there were just some really amazing conversations that we had at this celebration of your life, and that led to us being in this space now. So I'm really excited and grateful for the conversations that we've already had. I'm so excited to transmit them today. And I feel we're really gonna dive into some themes on radiance, shining your light, of accessing joy, and this plant medicine path. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and so grateful for our connection and the soul resonance that we share and the ability to Yeah, even though we didn't go really deep when we first met, just like immediately being like, yes, let's meet up, let's do this, let's connect. And how the conversation and connection has flowed so effortlessly. And you're such a light being and you radiate so much as well. And I really see you. And so thank you so much for playing in this space with me. I'm so grateful.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, we see each other. Time to play. Well, what we started talking about at your birthday, I would really love to tap back into that. And yeah, what really struck me was hearing your story about your old life, in a sense, and I put that with air quotes because sometimes it feels like we have these really strong differences, and we live a million lives of going from living one version of a certain reality into another. And I would love to hear a little bit about your story and your path to choosing and arriving into how you live now.
Yeah, thank you for the question. There are a couple of things you said in the introduction to I feel so incredibly grateful and blessed to be seen and to be able to live in this state of so much bliss and joy so effortlessly now. But it's really quite recent, that I've been feeling this way in such an embodied sense. So this conversation is it's such an incredible also like threshold and evaluation point for me to like feel like, wow, okay, it's happening, it's here, like I'm really living this. Because yeah, it was quite a journey. It's been quite a journey to get here. And it was even just the last time I was here on the lake, it would have been back in December, I think. So, oh gosh, okay, that is a year ago. About a year ago. I was walking down the main like hippie highway here, and one of the Mayan elders that makes drums saw me. I was walking down, and he stopped me, and he was like, I see people, but I cannot see you. Like, you are completely cloaked. Like, you're completely hidden. He's like, whatever you're doing a good job of it, right?
Wow.
Such an interesting moment. And I was still feeling that way. I've felt that way most of my life and have been told by people in the psychic space that, like, yeah, I've been hidden intentionally by my soul, and there's a lot that's had to happen for me to be seen and to be in my radiance and to shine my light. And yeah, so I mean, where I come from is, my soul chose to be born in, a place that was pretty dark. And, I'll even share a little bit more that maybe you don't know, but I was actually originally born into like a religious cult, and it was quite dark and a lot of oppression and manipulation and things. A lot of suppression of the feminine, and a belief that feminine was the root of evil in the world, actually. And being born into that in a family that had a lot of chaos and a lot of darkness, and then from there, like growing into just survival mode, really. And what was I good at? And was good at academics, so I ended up going to law school. And there was a part of me that wanted to, I think, save the little girl inside of me, and so I became social justice warrior and advocate, and but was just caught in a lot of struggle and suffering. And I didn't have a connection to spirituality because I was born into a religion that I then left. I kind of discarded anything that was religious or spiritual or anything that touched upon that. And so I was really like very 3D, very matrix, like went to law school, went to an Ivy League law school, became a lawyer, worked in Africa for human rights organizations, like was like ended up volunteering for a while in like the foster care system, like just raising awareness for human trafficking, just like hardcore, really, for years. And that I had these beautiful intentions from my heart space to want to help people, but I wasn't helping myself, and I wasn't loving myself, and I had a lot of resentment and heaviness just from what I was born into. You know, like what we're born into really, like the way my brain literally formed was around these like religious beliefs that were oppressive, right? Like being born into that. And it's like I've had to actually like completely change how my brain was wired and completely change my beliefs around life and the world and myself, completely from the ground up. And you know, I think a lot of people are born into places where there's societal conditioning, cultural conditioning, family conditioning, whatever it is. And some of us have like really strong beliefs, right? That we get to overcome. And today I'm so grateful for it, like eternally grateful for it. It's a beautiful life experience that my soul chose to have. And it's really like allowed me to understand so much around human consciousness and the evolution of human consciousness, and to have this like reclamation of spirituality and spirit, and to learn to love myself and learn to fall in love with myself from a place of like truly hating myself for a long time, or like having a lot of resentment around life. Like when you look at like the hero's journey or the arc of like a human experience, it's actually quite incredible. Like I have a lot of gratitude for the contrast, because it makes the good like so good. It makes the bliss like so blissful. Yeah. And so I really care about sharing my story, because I know what I used to think, and I know other people sometimes think, well, I see that that's possible for you, but you don't get where I came from, right? Like you don't understand how difficult it was for me, or how much darkness I come from, or how unfair it is, like what I grew up in, or whatever it is. And, you know, it can feel far away, and it may be a little far away, but the journey to getting there is incredible. And if you're willing to open your mind and your heart to new perspectives, to believe that, okay, what you've believed so far, maybe it's not fully true. Maybe I'm willing to see something differently that I haven't really understood, or maybe some belief I've held on to really tightly, maybe I'm going to be okay with giving it to the fire. When you can like be open to life surprising you, or people who have been there before you showing you the way, you can absolutely transform anything. Like you can transform anything in your life whatsoever. And I feel really grateful to be an example of that and an inspiration. And it's been a long journey, and it's been about 6 or 7 years now since I left basically my life. Like 6 or 7 years ago, I was living as a lawyer in government. I had a fiance, I had a house. I had worked up to that point. I had a lot of debt. I was just in this place of...
In the States?
In the States, yeah. Like living the full 3D matrix life. I had no belief system in anything. I was just looking to find the next thing that would make me happy, right? And then maybe we'd get married, and then I'd become a foster parent, and then I would get another dog, and then this, that, or the other thing. And I remember one day I just fell to my knees crying, and I was like, nothing has any meaning to me, and I want to find meaning. And that's what started my journey. And it's been, like 6 or 7 years of this incredible journey of like complete transformation, lots of deaths and rebirths, so many teachers, both people, spirits, and plants. And I absolutely am like head over heels in love with myself, in love with life, in love with everyone I meet. There's so much fear that I've overcome. And yeah, I feel so eternally grateful for that. Yeah, so that's a little bit of the story of like where I came from and what I've done and overcome to get here. And I really want it to be an inspiration for anyone that needs to hear it.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing the part about your childhood too, because I didn't know that. And yeah, that's what I hear from you is it really is if you can be open, if you can open your mind to receive these new pathways and perspectives, like your brain really does, it forms around these beliefs that you're born with, whether or not, because I experience that we're born knowing who we are, but then the environment that we're in is what like our brain shapes around, because the brain is still growing. And really, I noticed that the people who are happier, or the people who at least have hope and know that they can be, are the ones who release a fixed mindset, like a fixed growth mindset, and then shift on to like the changing growth mindset. And it's just like that shift to know that even though there's so much that's been built up within the brain, within the body, within the tissues, it's all meant to change. Like as I say that, I see like, a dirty pan that you're using in the kitchen that like every time you use it, it gets a little bit of buildup and you just scrape it off. Sometimes you have to soak it and like wash it for longer. Sometimes if you don't take care of it the right way, there's permanent damage. But in a true sense, there's no permanent damage. So what really to me is so beautiful about hearing your experience is just that moment of like falling down to your knees and just saying, like none of this has meaning to me. And I think what you said the other day too is that like, okay, I want to find joy. Like what does joy feel like to me? I don't even know. And I can remember a lot of times where I felt like that, or even, it's still a cycle, right? So you mentioned even though the journey can be long, the journey is incredible. And it's also like a frequency with waves. So sometimes like you feel amazing in the growth, and then other times like you have the slingshot effect of that, of like really going deep into another facet of your healing. And it's letting go for me of like this pursuit of happiness, if you will, is letting go of the idea that there's just one thing for us, that there's just joy. It's not that you needed to just have that, but like you wanted something different. So thank you for being curious about something different.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're talking about with our brains get built up, our bodies get built up, right? There's like these frequencies and these memories and these ways of being and these ways of understanding and whatnot that get really built up. And gosh, like I was so smart, right? Like my brain was so smart. Like my brain, my ego, whatever we want to call it was like so strong, right? Like Ivy League law degree, right? Like I was acing tests easily. Like I could do like these things with my brain and this logic, and I could convince people of things and whatnot. But like my brain was so smart, and it kept me in this like safe zone where I didn't ever feel too much in any direction, right? So it's like I genuinely didn't understand or know what it was to feel joy. And even the word joy felt like a strange word to me, right? Like it just wasn't in my vocabulary. I didn't really quite understand it. And or bliss, or even a state of like open-hearted love. Like I was like in this space of like, okay, I'm excited for something coming up in the future. I'm waiting for something to happen. And then it would happen. I'd be like, oh yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad, you know? Or then I'd get really upset about something, or something negative would happen, but I wouldn't want to fully feel it. So I would numb it, right? And I'd stay in this in-between state. And our brains like are really great at keeping us in these lanes to protect ourselves, right? But I knew that I knew life could be different. Like I knew life could be different. I knew there was more to life, right? There's this feeling that like life can be more meaningful. Life can be more happy. Life can be more than just working every day at a job I didn't enjoy, and then drinking a lot on the weekends, and then redoing it and eating at the same places, and just like doing that and feeling and fighting with my partner, and just like not finding meaning, and not being of service, or not doing whatever it was that like would bring joy to me. And I knew there was something more, and I was willing to give it up. I was willing to give up everything and try new things. And so taking the leap into things that were unknown was a really big theme for me that I ended up doing. Like I left my job, I left my fiance, I moved across the country without securing a job yet, and ended up on a wild, dark night journey. But I was willing, and I did it. And what you said about, right, like the waves of emotions, right? Like in order to unlock the joy and the bliss, we do have to go into those places of the pain and the darkness, or the difficult emotions that we haven't wanted to feel. But we also don't have to get stuck there, right? So there's some teachers on my path that were like really in love with the dark feminine and just wanted to be in the dark feminine. And it was like be in your rage and be in your grief and be in all of that all of the time, right? And like love that. But we also don't have to stay stuck there either. And this is what I've really learned is like I now am at a place where, yeah, there will be a day where grief comes up, and I can literally feel joy while I'm feeling my grief.
Yeah.
Like I can literally love the feeling of grief. Like I can be like curled up on my bed with this soft blanket that I have. It's my favorite blanket, crying my eyes out over something that I'm not even fully understanding, but I'm allowing it to move through my body. And I can just have so much love for the experience, for that place, for what I'm feeling. I can feel anger and rage and like go into those feelings and scream into a pillow and still just like be caressing my skin and loving myself and like feeling joy in that place. Like I can genuinely go into these feelings, and it's no longer really difficult, or it's no longer really heavy. And so that feels really important to mention, because sometimes people think, okay, well, if I want joy, then I'm gonna like crash into these dark feelings afterwards, and like maybe it's better to stay like more centered or whatnot. But we can actually get to an elevated place where like we're feeling joy is woven throughout all of it.
Yeah.
Bliss is woven throughout all of it. And going back to what I was saying about the brain being really like stuck in these certain patterns, one of the things that has been the most profound for shifting that for me has been plant medicine. Because everything else is like, has been trying to change the brain with the brain, you know? And if your brain is set up a certain way and you're trying to change the brain with your brain that's set up in a certain way, and that's how you're approaching it, for me, there was only so much I could do. But then working with plant medicines that would actually separate me from my ego, or like separate or tease out different layers of consciousness, and allow me, or maybe even sometimes force me to go into darker places and feel things, is what got me out of, it's what allowed me to actually start really rewiring things in my brain. It was like the teachers I needed that could actually get me out of my head. And the plants are really the only teachers that have been able to do that for me, right? Because it's not just another human brain talking to a human brain, or... And energetic work as well. Like, there's also energetic work without the plants that has done profound transformation for me. But the plants have really, been such an ally for me. So I just want to shout out to them.
Shout out to the plants. I love the plants. I love the plants so much.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm learning is that we are the plants. Yeah. And we don't have to take them in, and we also can take them in. You know, it's not like there's just one way. I always like to be clear about that with plant medicine, even though I'm like so for it. But yeah, it does help you. It literally helps rewire your nerve pathways, especially like mushrooms. Psilocybin is huge for that. Yeah. And I can feel they're called like the niños sagrados, like the sacred children, the holy children is what some people call the mushrooms. And you can feel them, and how it's been taught to me is it's like these little kind of like gnomes and stuff, and like fairies and creatures that are coming through your brain and just like sweeping everything away and like helping you clean up. And that's like kind of how it feels sometimes. You're just like, ooh, like, whoa, I didn't think about it that way, you know? And what I really hear in your journey of being in school and being a lawyer and, you know, knowing exactly kind of what's there, even though it's keeping you in the middle, it's known. Yeah. So this is the logic and the brain and the masculine in some ways. The yang and action. And then like, and we talked about this at your party, is like, because there was another former lawyer there too, who's like, he had like his sayonara moment when he left the firm and just was like, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm not happy, so I'm gonna go. I'm off to get my happiness. And it's going from the known into the unknown, and it's also like going from the brain, so not fighting it, or not healing the brain with the brain, but moving into the body. No. And the eros of like going from logos to eros, so from like thinking to feeling. Yeah. And then it's not that you're like giving up the known or the logic in any way. It's still deeply important. It's a part of the like Holy Trinity of like the body, mind, and spirit. And we need the balance, right? So we need more of that. So I actually come from like a similar background of just like I was super studious, straight A's. I graduated top of my class and all of the things, and I was an honors student, and you know, like I do love studying and all the things without the pressure of what I thought that it was meant to be for a long time. Eventually I remember like having my brain be formed around like really thinking that I needed to know. I needed to know things, and if I knew, then that would make me worthy, basically. And now I know that the only thing that I know is that I don't know.
Right. Like worthy or safe too, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that has been a big theme on my journey. And I know for some others too, is like, especially if we've experienced traumas in our life or violences in our life, which I have some in mine, it's like the known is what's safe, right? The unknown
Right.
could be inviting in unsafety. It could be opening up to something, right? Like maybe we opened up and we're vulnerable and then something really painful happened, right? And then that is something that these traumas that live in our bodies and in our brains, it's like our ego gets really strong. It's like, okay, we're keeping Ayala safe, right? Or keeping her safe. Like, how do we keep her safe? These are the boundaries, right? But it's an overprotection and it's a reaction to things that have happened. And so healing, like you're saying, like going into the feeling state and healing the body and having support in going into the unknown in trauma-informed ways, right? Like that's something I feel so passionate about, and especially is like creating and finding more and more safe spaces for people to go and enter into the unknown. Like these intentional communities. Like I've found quite a few like intentional communities. One of my favorite ones here on the lake, on Lake Atitlan, where it's like, yeah, I went into the unknown and then I landed in this beautiful safe space, you know, this heart-centered community. And finding spaces like that, or even here, just being on the lake, not even needing to be like in a particular community, but like living in the community that's naturally drawn here. It's just such a heart-centered, beautiful, safe community that I feel, yeah, has healed me in so many ways. And so really like allowing like our desire for what it is we want in our life and allowing ourselves, like we can step into the unknown and also ask the universe for safety. We can step into the unknown and also say, I'm stepping into the unknown, but I'm choosing things that are in alignment with my heart, with my desires, with my greatest growth. And it's listening, right? So when we tune in and we're like, okay, like I'm ready for something different. I don't know what it is, but I know it's not this, right? Like there's been quite a few moments like this for me. And one of those moments was I was in my dark night. I had run out of money. I was living at my parents' again. And I was there for a while. And I found these teachers online. I found human design. I found the Gene Keys. I found Joe Dispenza. I found Amanda Francis, these teachers. And I just started watching their videos, their free videos, over and over again, believing that I could have a different experience, even though like my environment wasn't reflecting it yet. And this thing popped up on my Instagram for this like pop-up intentional community out in the California desert, which was on the other side of the country. And my heart and my soul just instantly said yes. And within like 3 days, I had messaged them, people I didn't know. I had gotten on a call with the woman who was running it. It was going to be $1,000 to participate, and I'd have to get over to California. But my heart and soul said yes, and I didn't have the money. So I just told her, and I told her about me, and I felt so soul resonant. She was like, okay, come early, help us set up, and I'll even send you money so you can get here. This person that doesn't know me at all on Instagram, right? And it was just this instant soul connection, and it changed my life. That community for 1 month wrecked me in so many ways, but in beautiful ways. Immense heartbreak. I ended up sitting with ayahuasca for the first time and sitting with a couple other psychedelics from that. And it began my like pure nomadic journey. And it was taking that leap, but into something, right? Like it wasn't just running away from something. It was like I waited and I waited and I waited. And I was tuning in and I was manifesting and I was meditating and I was believing and I was rewiring. And I just kept believing and kept believing and kept believing. And then this thing showed up and I trusted. I trusted that soul calling. I pulled a tarot card and it said soul calling. And it was just all these things. And I was like, I'm trusting it. And so it's like taking the leap, but like following spirit, like following the guidance from spirit and learning that that's always there for you. And you get to develop that relationship and strengthen that trust more and more the more that you listen and the more that you trust. And it doesn't stop being scary to jump into the unknown. But yeah, the more you do it and you see the magic and you allow yourself to believe that something else is possible, the more that life opens up to you and shows you that other things are possible. And then, like you mentioned, like the mushrooms, for me, ayahuasca was the first plant medicine I ever sat with, actually, before I had even sat with mushrooms.
Me
Even
too.
socially or anything. Really?
Yeah.
It's an interesting journey, yeah?
Oh, yeah. It's like, we're going in.
Yeah.
I was ready.
Yeah, ayahuasca's been immensely powerful for me because it's the one medicine that just will completely pull the rug out from under me, like brain-wise and consciousness-wise. And, I've needed some tough love to get me out of my own way. And she's like, I call her mother now. Like, people call her grandmother, but like she's become mother to me. I've sat with her so many times now, and now I'm actually like taking a break, and I'm deepening my relationship with mushrooms, because the mushrooms are all that neural rewiring. For me, ayahuasca was like getting things out of the way, and now the mushrooms are like, okay, now what do we want to wire into place?
Totally.
What do we want to create, right?
Yeah.
And then also, like you said, like you don't have to sit with the plants and you don't have to sit with psychedelics. And there are plants I work with that are not psychedelic, that are neural rewiring and have been shown scientifically to be neural rewiring as well, and emotionally alchemizing without having to go into a full psychedelic experience. So there's so many resources and so many things that are available to allow us to like really shift, and it's like getting rid of all these layers of things that have been put on top of our soul's light, right? Like, that's why I wasn't seen. That's why I wasn't witnessed. That's why life wasn't showing up for me the way I wanted it to. That's why there was a lot of shadow and a lot of darkness in my life. And now it's like, through this work of removing all of these layers, I finally feel like my light is shining, and then life reflects that back to me. Like, the incredible beauty and joy and love that I receive on a daily basis is so magical. It's literally living a completely magical life, and there's so much more to go. Like, I still know there's so much more that's going to open up for me, and it gets to be this continual journey, and I feel so blessed to be at this part. At this part of the journey in this very moment.
This is a pretty cool part of the journey. Wow. I love hearing you talk about that. And I want to talk about Bobensana. Because, that is one plant that you work with that isn't psychedelic. And that was my first time experiencing it at your birthday this week. And I'll share a little bit about my experience with it maybe before you share. I had heard lots about Bobensana and always heard people speak very fondly of it, but without really kind of knowing what it was. And then I just kind of like my intuition started to download. It's like, feels like it's kind of like Blue Lotus, but more for the heart. And and then we drank it this week with the cacao, and I'm very familiar with what cacao feels like for me in my body. So I can instantly feel like what the difference is when something else is added in. And it's so heart opening and like really gentle, but yet like all encompassing in terms of, I feel like the Bobensana, like I feel like she opens up these realms, and it feels very magnetic, but it's just like, I can kind of feel it all in the air, and I can feel that it's strengthening my body, and it feels like supporting the value of courage within my spirit. I would love for you to share a little bit of the story about like the mermaids and kind of like the deep roots and the tethering, because that is really hitting home for me, and I think that people would love to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing it up. She's come back into my field really strongly recently. I've been working with her for a couple of years, and the beginning of my relationship with her was actually going to Peru and sitting in dieta for 30 days. And what that looks like is, sitting with, like, living in huts in the jungle with the tribe. The Shipibo tribe is where I was with in Pucallpa. And a plant dieta is when you spend a certain amount of time, you eliminate a lot of other things from your life, a lot of distractions, you have a very simple diet and everything, and the intention is to connect deeply with the medicine of a particular plant. And often in this style, like in Peru, they will also have you sit with ayahuasca, and she helps deepen your relationship with the plant even more and connect you to the healing medicine. But you can have the Bobinsana by herself as well. And ever since that month, I've worked with her separately as well. And yeah, wow. So they will prescribe her as a medicine in Peru to heal the heart and to heal emotional traumas. And that's the intention. Is so there are other trees and other plants that people will often go into a plant dieta to heal, like cancer or something physical, and there's other plants for that. But if you go there and it's like more emotional or any traumas or any healing of the heart, that's what they prescribe, basically. It's the medicine. And so the Bobinsana spirit, the myth I was told around her spirit, and I've seen the mermaids too, which is incredible, like in visions and in journeys. But yeah, so the Bobinsana spirit is the mermaid of the jungle, they call her. And if you ever see the tree and look it up, the flowers, the pink flowers are, first of all, so beautiful, and second of all, definitely look like they come from an alien planet. Like, they don't obey the rules of gravity. I don't understand how they work. They're really incredible. Like, very strange. I love them. So, yeah, the mythology is that the mermaids are like sirens out in the deepest parts of the river, the deepest waters of the Amazon River. And the Bobinsana tree itself the taproot is 7 times as deep as the height of the tree, which makes the tree so strong and so flexible. You can hold onto a branch. The intention is you hold onto the branch of the Bobinsana tree, and you can swim out into the deepest waters where the mermaid sirens are beckoning you and calling you to heal the depths of your heart, the deepest parts of your heart, literally the deepest parts of your soul. And that the Bobinsana tree is so strong and so flexible and so rooted that it will bring you back no matter what, otherwise you would drown. And so that's the beautiful story of Bobinsana. She's both the mermaids and the tree that brings you back, and is considered both very gentle and very powerful at the same time, which is, of course, the feminine, right? Like, when you think about the feminine spirit, like, the feminine is the gentle, powerful spirit. It's like water. Water is the most yielding substance on the planet, and yet it's the most powerful. It can erode the hardest stone, right? And so when you think of the feminine, you think of the element of water often, and that's what really comes to mind with the Bobinsana, is this like incredible spirit who's so gentle and so powerful and can heal the deepest parts of your heart. Another thing that I came up with myself is that the branches look like pipe cleaners. Like, if you've ever seen like a pipe cleaner, it's like the long thing, and it's got the bristles on the whole thing. So all the branches of the Bobinsana tree have the leaves on the whole branch like that. And to me, it was like when I was in dieta, I would see these visions of like the branches just pipe cleaning my heart chakra.
Wow.
Like, just like so deeply cleaning, so deeply healing. And so the the way that she shows up for me is when I sit with her, she will come and bring something up to the surface. She'll use that pipe cleaner. She'll bring you into the deepest part of your heart and bring some emotion up to the surface from the depths of the water. And then she'll bring you to the realization that you need to alchemize it. And then it'll turn into bliss in the body. And there's this feeling of like sensational bliss that I'll feel, like literally in my skin from it once it's been transmuted. And so for me, she's really shown up as this powerful alchemizer of emotion into bliss and radiance and beauty. And so, yeah, I feel so deeply grateful for her for that.
Wow. I really love and appreciate the way that you explain to take us through the process of what she can bring up. It takes a certain level of creating a relationship with a plant. That's really what we're doing, is like you're welcoming the Bobinsana into your body, and then you're becoming not just Ayala and not just Bobinsana, but like the unique union of those two. And that experience of being able to just like dive so deep into those depths. I think the day after we had it, I went down towards the water here, and you can this property is right on a nature reserve, so I was like out on this point right there, and so the wind is coming around at that part. It was so powerful, and I kind of entered into this trance state of communicating with the water and receiving all these deep transmissions from the dragons, which, like, to anyone who hasn't been to Lake Atitlan, everyone here is doing this. Yes. It's just like the land speaks really, really clearly to you. The lake is always kind of telling you what's coming next. And I was standing out there on this rock and just looking down at the water. And Atitlan is really connected to like Atlantis and Lemuria, and their legends about, like civilization being underneath and the water filling up now. And I was just like feeling that energy of the Bobinsana holding me, and like feeling the mermaids calling me out. And I was just having this experience of like in the psychic, like swimming down into the lake and just being held by the water and the dragons and the mermaids, and like feeling so completely held where I knew my physical body was in that moment. And it's really beautiful, like what that's opening, as well as I love that you talk about she brings up something for your heart to heal that you realize needs to be alchemized, and then that becomes bliss in the body. That is, I mean, that's math, really, in some way. Like it's the when you give more wood to the fire, it becomes brighter. And to me, that really like brings me back to your journey and to all of our journeys of this choice of like, why do you go into the hero's journey? Why do you go into all of it? It's not to get stuck feeling any of them, or to get stuck in feeling numb. You really get to go there. And also what I'm remembering from your share earlier is that even though you had this experience of the known before, it's like you actually, when you step into the quote-unquote unknown, you actually start to get to know everything that you ever wanted to and that you always have. And I think that's the really big shift in the brain that I can feel that plants like Bobinsana help with, because it brings you back into the heart. But yeah, you're trading false knowings of security of like I know this is what my life is, and I know I'm going to make this much money, and all these things, when the truth is that all of that can change in an instant. And if you have all of that, but you don't know what lights up your heart. You don't know what pleasure feels like. You don't know, like what it is to feel like the warmth of the sun on your face and feel in union with all of creation in that moment. There's a whole universe of different things that you can feel, but that's what I want to feel, and that's what I want to know is my heart. And to bring that as well to what you shared about and reflect on feelings of grief and having the love and the bliss through all of that, it really includes that process that you just shared. It's embodying it and recognizing that feeling is just energy and consciousness that got trapped somewhere in your body. It's like just kind of like, it's super windy today. It's like all these leaves that got swept in and got stuck there, and then they start getting like gross and icky. And then when we sweep them out, they become beautiful again, and they become the bliss, and it feels so good to clear it out.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's what I've really realized is that this feeling of radiance, this feeling of shining your light, it actually is a lot of energy running through your body, right? So it's not just like a feeling of peace. Like a feeling of radiance is like you literally are a channel, and all this light is flooding through you. And so what's happening on this journey is you're actually building your capacity for energy. You're building your capacity to hold and move and not be attached to energy. And just like you said, like traumas or painful experiences or the ways we grew up, or every time we suppress ourselves, right? Like every time I suppressed a genuine laugh, which I did my whole life, like I wouldn't allow myself to feel something because it was just my way of being. Every time I suppressed it, I packed those leaves even tighter in that one space, right? Each time packing it tighter, 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 until I didn't even realize. I just thought that was a part of me, right? So you go in with the support of these different practices of going into these places and removing the leaves, right? Or like feeling the pain or the darkness here, and maybe it's painful in the moment, but then you are actually releasing that energy. Your channel opens up so much more, and then you have all this creative energy. And a lot of people who are really suppressed and haven't gone through this journey of like breaking their heart open and breaking their ego open, it's like you feel maybe really fatigued a lot, or you feel like you don't have the creative inspiration that other people do, and you don't know why or whatnot. But that's what this process is doing. The more you go into all of these places and you're unlocking and you're opening up and you're allowing these blockages and layers to be released through the feelings of them, through the feelings of the pain, of the scarcity, of the fear, of the doubt, of the shame, of the grief, no matter what it is, you're opening up that energetic channel more and more. And then it becomes creative energy, because it actually takes a lot of energy to hold on to trauma or to hold on to old beliefs, to believe that something's not possible for you, and to have a thought that loops in your head every day about it is actually taking your energy. So the moment you start rewiring, the more that you rewire, the more that you feel, the more that you think different thoughts, you're now becoming an open, clear channel for inspiration, for creativity, for radiance. And like you're saying, like you feel safer living in the unknown, because something can happen. Because no matter, like you said, like if you think you're living in safety and stability, it can still change. The steady job you could still lose out of something unexpected. The relationship could still end. Like these things that you're holding on to as a part of your identity, they may still go away. They could, right? And so when you allow yourself to step into the unknown, and you feel this comfort of living in the unknown, then if something, because I mean life is not permanent, like things will change. So when something does change out of your control, you're not completely sidelined by it, you're not completely devastated by it. That you might feel grief or something, but it's something you're used to feeling. You're used to feeling the emotion, so you can feel it, let it pass through you, and then you're on to the next beautiful thing in your life, the next phase of your life, the next chapter. And so I remember I had someone ask me this question last week in one of my ceremonies that I held, and she was like, do you ever miss the stability and the security, like from living this way? She's a doctor, like an MD student, and sat in a mushroom ceremony with me. And, I really thought about it, and I was like, well, whatever we think is security or stability outside of us, it's actually, I now have security and stability inside of me. I know that no matter what happens, I can handle it. I know that no matter what happens, I can feel it, transmute it, create something beautiful, create art with it, and then start the next phase of whatever life is meant to be. And then it gets to be in my highest and best interest, and it gets to be for my growth. And it just keeps continuously getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
More radiant, more blissful. Because that's what I'm choosing. This is important. Somebody just shared this, another person from the ceremony actually, this is her download from the mushrooms, was that life wants to grow. But we get to choose what direction we're growing. Like we get to point our focus toward a particular direction, and then that's where life will grow. Like life has no option but to grow. Like we are growing, the universe is expanding. But we have the beautiful, beautiful gift of being able to choose and focus. Like, what direction do I want to grow? Do I want to grow towards radiance and bliss and joy? Do I want to grow towards believing life can be amazing? Do I want to grow towards life gets better and better and better? Or not? You don't have to. But that's one thing that no matter how hard things got, I always came back to this. Nope. My stubbornness was so useful. It was like, nope, I know things get to get better.
Yeah.
I know it. I know things get to be good for me. I don't care what anyone else says. I don't care what the reflections are around me. I don't care what life is showing up for me right now. As I know I get to change this, and I'm going to do whatever it takes. And then it's worth it.
And that is the only known that you need to have, is it's an intention. It's the energy of devotion to I don't want to live this way. I think I want to change. I think I want to take a different route. And what I hear in all of that is so much of the importance of just movement. Because everything in the universe is always growing, is always expanding, is always moving. And so when we hold on is when it starts to feel heavy and challenging. And so there's all this okay, yeah, maybe I'll stay here and it's gonna be really great. I'm gonna hold on really tight, and then I let go, and oh my god, whoa. I didn't even know I wanted to let go until you do it. And that's the key, is it's remembering that the movement is all of it. And for me, what that brings me to is something that we also talked about, which is that when you peel back these layers, when you let go, when you experience the bliss body of feeling your grief, because also to bring it to that intention of devotion of, okay, this is kind of, I know I'm aiming for something, I'm going in this somewhat of a direction, or I know exactly where I'm aiming for. That's what I think brings the lightness into feeling the grief, feeling the rage, feeling all of it, is that you can feel how good it is for you to feel it.
Yeah.
And you're not judging it. You're not judging the feeling at all. You're just accepting it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that you brought in the word devotion. It's been coming up a lot lately, because it really is coming from, I don't know if it did originally, but now my life and everything I'm doing comes from this space of devotion, devotion for self and devotion for life. Like I said, I came from a place of being really resentful and whatnot, and now I have just immense gratitude for life itself. Like the fact that we have bodies, the fact that this exists right now, this universe, this world, the fact that trees exist, the fact that nature is as complex as it is, to have created us to be able to be sitting here having this conversation, to be able to feel bliss and pleasure and pain and grief. You know, this is something that some of my deepest plant medicine ceremonies with ayahuasca and actually wachuma, the San Pedro cactus, have taught me, is this like incredible reverence for like the perfection that had to come into being for life to exist. And to know that like our souls like wanted to be here. Like my soul was like waiting to be birthed into this body, you know, like when, outside of time and space and whatnot, like in other dimensions, but like there is a yearning on a soul level to be life. And to have this devotion for life means that we get to have a devotion for self. And so then I get to care about my desires, and I get to love myself, and I get to do all of these things, and it's coming from this place of the deepest devotion. And that's beautiful. That's living the beauty way. And that's where this radiance comes from. And when you feel that way about yourself, and you feel that way about life, you feel that way about other people, you feel that way about the world. Like, okay, there might be people that you don't agree with, or there's discernment, and this environment doesn't feel good, so I'm going to choose these other environments or whatnot. But all of that still comes from a place of the deepest love and compassion for every single being, for every single person, being, sentient being, animal being, plant being, spirit on the planet and in the universe. And it's like how to live in a state of awe that life exists is one of the greatest gifts that plant medicine has given me, is that perspective is so different from the perspective of like, oh, like why did I get this life and not that life or whatever. It's like, wow, life is so much better when lived from this place. And I'm in love with myself. I'm in love with life. Other people reflect that love back to me. The way life shows up is in devotion for me, because I'm in devotion for it. You know, it's this way that we're mirrors and reflections, and the universe reflects back to us who we are inside. And every single one of us is a pure light being inside. So it's just remembering that. And we get to go through this incredible journey of remembering it through the layers and through the shadows and through the illusions and through the societal constructs that try to convince us otherwise, and through whatever it is that's been put in place. We get to have this incredible hero's journey of sifting through and making it all the way down to the core of us, and remembering that we are pure light beings, we're angels, and we get to live life that way if we so choose. Or we can choose not to, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and even before you start to peel back the layers, it's like it's coming all the way full circle in the hero's journey, is remembering that you were always perfect. And, you know, I see when you spoke, that Mayan elder saw that you had hidden yourself. That's something that our souls have had to do at different points in existence, and it's something that we can remember ancestrally, of our ancestors needing to protect themselves for very many different types of reasons, all based in the illusion of separation, of humans not remembering that, you know, we're all here to love each other. The lyric from, there's like a song by Willow and Janavi Harrison where the lyrics are like, peel back the layers, I want to shine now bright as the sun. And which is such a good song. If I remember, I'll link it in the show notes. And yeah, it's like before you chose to kind of save your inner child as a lawyer, and like, social justice warrior, before you decided to heal yourself through the peeling back of all the layers and then reclaiming who you are and all of it, it's like you were still perfect even when you were holding on to all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you and I are two examples of people who have, like, we went from living in the States and like kind of like a studious life and maybe some jobs into like traveling the world and sharing ceremonies and creating music, living in intentional community. I want to say that it's all available, and also it's completely possible for you to go on this journey to reclaim all the parts of yourself that you want, to peel back the grief and alchemize it into your bliss body, to go through having new perspectives and rewiring the pathways in your brain while still being in your job, while still being in your life. It doesn't always have to take, this black or white change. And I notice that a lot of the people who we meet in these communities, there's like, it's really easily known that we'll say like, oh yeah, like that was the old me. And it's true, because we're born and we die and we're born again so many times. But what I've noticed is that I've gone through so many of those that I've started to come back and reclaim all these parts of myself that I never thought I would feel again. And they're like, the best way that I can describe is like, it's just how I felt as a child. Like before I put on all the stories and the judgments and all the different things. Of course, I'm still healing. And at its root, though, what I'm experiencing now is like, yeah, no matter how I chose to live my life, if I had not chosen to stay with ayahuasca 4 years ago, I still would have arrived here. Everything is happening as it's meant to. And I'm so grateful that I chose to sit with ayahuasca and that I chose this path, because I freaking love it. And I love being in touch with my feelings and present to this magic of life. And, there's a lot of different games that we can play in this reality. It's just like there's an infinite menu of what you want to do with your life. And it's not so serious. The stakes aren't super high. It's like, if you want to play the corporate game, then play it and be happy and do it. And and I'll celebrate you for it, because if you're happy, then I'm happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I know sometimes people will say, and I feel very privileged to have chosen to, leave things behind and become a nomad. It's not like I had a lot of money saved up to fund that. I know some people have different levels of privilege, right, of being able to do that. And actually I've, made, there were times when I was traveling when I had way less money than I had when I was working and whatnot. And I still was able to travel, because making it work. And it's a different lifestyle where you can actually live on it on way less money. So I know some people, but then there are people who have children, right? Or people who are super like caretakers of their family, or have these ties that like, they're like, I can't just get up and leave my life, right, for the next 6 years or whatnot. And so I love that you're emphasizing this, because it doesn't require you leaving everything behind and disappearing into a jungle or forest or whatnot for a year, 5 years, 6 years, whatever. You can do this in your own life. And also, it's okay to admit that sometimes it might be harder when you are plugged into the matrix. And you're also allowed to set boundaries, and you're allowed to set radical boundaries that people maybe don't understand or wouldn't understand. It may take a little extra work because our environment does impact us. And so it's also okay. It's okay to say, maybe I do need to go take a month, and I'm going to take a month and I'm going to go travel somewhere where I'm going to decompress my nervous system, and I'm going to experience a different way of life, and then I'm going to come back to my life and I'm going to implement changes. And then 6 months later or a year later, I'm going to go back for a month because I know I need the reminder and I need to replenish. There's a lot of people we meet out here who come out here to Lake Atitlan or these places for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then they go back to their life and they go back to more modern day culture, and they go back and they bring their medicine and their magic, and then they come back here when they need the refueling, when they need to be reminded of who they really are and reminded of what parts of their normal quote unquote life are not serving them. And then they go and they put in more boundaries and more discernment. And that's also completely possible. And you can make small changes over time, and that's beautiful too. So there's all these pathways that are available, and our souls chose and signed up for different ways of the expression of life. And all of them are perfect, and all of them are beautiful. And yeah, like you said, it really is remembering, I have done I've guided a lot of like shamanic healing work without plants, actually, with women over the last 6 years of like going back into the roots of traumas and rewiring them. And so I got kind of stuck in this belief that like the further back you go, the more you're going into the roots of trauma, right? The further back you go, the more you're going into the shadows and the darkness, and you're removing those layers and you're transmuting and whatnot. And then eventually I was getting all the way back to birth. And I was like, okay, the trauma of birth. Well, that's a trauma in and of itself, right? Like in being put in a diaper and in a crib with bars or whatever it is, like our little souls are just like, what's happening, right? And
we're like, why can't I do anything myself and no one understands me?
Exactly, right? But then I was like, oh, wait, before all of that, when my soul was put into this body, right? My soul is pure and perfect. And that completely changed everything for me, because it wasn't like I was trying to fix myself to become whole, healing the things from the past so that my present could be whole. I was like, oh no, like the further back you go, eventually you get to perfection and purity and wholeness. And that's what's actually at my core. And I couldn't mess that up if I tried. Like there's literally nothing I could do to make that not be true. And so that will always be true, and that's the depths of who you are. There's nothing you could do to change that. Like literally there's nothing at all. Like you are not powerful enough to make your soul not whole. And so to know that that's there no matter what, and that's at the base and the root and the ground, like the core of everything, changed so much for me and allowed me to remember, I'm just getting stuff out of the way of like what is actually truly there. And that can be an expression in any form of life you choose, in any creative expression of life you choose, whether you're living in Lake Atitlan or you're living in a high-rise in New York City or wherever you are. It's totally possible. I do believe that. And if there's support that you need, that's great. And if things are difficult in a certain environment, that's great to admit, Like I also want to really validate those out there who are sensitive souls and sensitive beings. And even if you do have kids, or even if you do have attachments or things that are tying you to where you are, there are probably bigger changes that could happen than you realize are possible. Like there's probably even more possible. There always is. There's always more possible for us than our limited minds are allowing us to believe. And so, even with that, there are still changes that can happen. There are still things that can be transformed. There's still different ways of being available to us. And so I will forever stand for that level of optimism for every single person on the planet.
I really love what you say about, your soul is whole. And you don't need to go back in time to reclaim that perfection, because that is literally what is allowing you to breathe. If the soul leaves the body, then this body dies, but your soul, you're still gonna exist. Mm-hmm. And like then the tree is gonna branch off into the next part, and you maybe get a new body or experience reality in another way. And what I see when you say that is like something that's been present, and I think I spoke about this on another episode, is just that like the healing is not far away. Mm-hmm. And like when you have this energy of looking all the way back, I actually kind of have this visual when you say it of like seeing the channel. And so if you envision envision that the sun is having just a ray like straight down onto you. And you're looking up, and that's your connection to your soul. But then sometimes there are clouds that come through, or there's like these little debris that are just like kind of stuck in the way. And all you're doing is just like blowing some air into the sky to like help clear everything. But honestly, the clouds, if you've ever noticed, a sunset is more beautiful when there's clouds in the sky. So like if the clouds are thoughts and the things that cloud us, why are they there if not to make the light more beautiful and to help us like then bring our attention and remember, oh yeah, okay, right, I'm looking, straight, okay, there it is, there's the sun. And like just reconnecting back to that. And then you can feel that then within your own body, within your solar plexus, the fire that lives within you, which is like, you can feel it as the Bobensana of like this umbilical cord energy. You always, always, always are connected to the depth of your being. It's like we have an umbilical cord to our souls, So yeah, I think that for the example of kind of like cloaking yourself and protecting yourself, you also have to like kind of fall for it in some ways and like believe that you're not this radiant being in order to hide it, even though like I don't think that it could ever really be hidden. Like that's, and you spoke that to me too, that was like some people were kind of seeing some things in you and in your birthdays in years past that you weren't seeing yet. And that's when the radiance starts to peek through. But that intentional hiding by the soul, to me it just all feels like a part of the game of knowing how absolutely brilliant you are, to then like, okay, now what would it feel like to like realize that again for the first time? So I'm gonna forget it and then remember it again over and over. And I see you really shining in that and deepening into how you want to express it, from like the beautiful tattoo that's on your back of the sun, and how you share kirtan and have so much energy to. This woman is giving so many ceremonies here, like it's remarkable. And I know also that we spoke about how you feel, it's just, you're in your dharma. It's flowing to you. And when you remove the blockages, that is the radiance. It is the natural flow and the trust of what's coming next. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're bringing up such a great point. Because I also really want to emphasize like the trust and the timing of life. And this is what we were kind of talking about a little bit, is there's been times where like I've tried to make things happen and it didn't feel like they were happening. And now like they're happening effortlessly. I'm in an overflow state. And it's also like I alluded to this earlier when I said like there might be a journey ahead of you, right? So it's like realizing you are whole. You're born whole. You're whole now. You don't have to go past or forward to get there. And also, there's nothing wrong with there being a journey to it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like, because I feel like if I had told myself 5 years ago, like, you're whole now, like, just feel it, you know? Like, I'd be like, like
no
give
way.
myself the finger, you know, and be like, yeah, okay, you know, like there's a process of remembering, there's a process of healing, and like we don't need the healing to be whole, but maybe we're choosing a journey of healing, you know, like maybe we're choosing a journey of, you know, like this journey. I have this cultivation of power and this cultivation of love and compassion that and this cultivation of energetic capacity that took growing a little bit by a little bit by a little bit through this process. If I had done it all in one night, I don't know if I would have survived it, right? I have a physical body. There were nights I felt like I wasn't going to survive, and that was just 1/10 of the journey, you know, like of the building of capacity. There was a lot that had to get broken down. And so, you know, it's not my favorite thing to hear myself, but I'm going to say it is like sometimes it does take time, like, and that's okay. Like sometimes there is a destined blooming of the flower of your soul, you know, like the lotus that blooms from the mud, right? Like there is some time that it spends down in the muck, and then it comes up, and then it comes up, and right, like we do live in a world of space and time, and I 1,000% believe in quantum leaps and exponential jumps and expansion that happens overnight, and I've experienced it. And also things get to get even better than where we thought we were going to go. You know, like my dreams 6 years ago, you know, were to travel. That was really it. Like that was the freedom my soul craved. I had no idea that I would be a singer. Like I'm singing now, and I sing in ceremonies. I lead kirtans. Like I sing now, like starting to sing in like gigs and whatnot. That was not a thing I even desired or knew I desired. And my soul deep down desired it and knew it was a big part of my dharma. But that was a part of just stepping into the unknown and trusting the next step. And now it's such a big part of my life. But I didn't even know that was coming, right? And so things take time and things unfold in unexpected ways. And that's beautiful. So like no matter where you are, there's no judgment around where you are. Like you are whole, and if you don't feel whole, that's okay too. And you get to go through the journey of remembering your wholeness, and you get to go as fast as you want to, and you get to take breaks when you want to, and then you get to exponentially leap when you want to, and all of it is perfect and beautiful. You get to hold on to a moment of brokenness if that's what you want, right? Like if you are feeling broken right now and you're in grief and you're falling apart and you aren't feeling that, that's beautiful too, right? Like all of it, there's so much beauty in all of life and in every phase of the caterpillar turning into the butterfly, you know? And you know, if you still feel like a caterpillar, or you feel like the caterpillar that's melted into the goo, it's called imaginal cells in the cocoon, where it literally melts into goo. That's okay too. Like everything, the whole journey is beautiful and perfect, and you're still whole. And you also, it's okay if you don't feel it. You know, like I just like I want to emphasize that, like the perfection of the imperfection and the beauty of every part of it.
Yeah. It's all perfect, and whether you are doing it, you know, your own way with just like breath work or journaling or just living your life more intentionally, or you're, you know, taking a month-long dieta and doing ayahuasca ceremonies, like quantum leap can come from anywhere. And what I'm also recognizing is that there's no skipping things. It's like, even when you do have a big quantum leap, it's like, you kind of like go to the end, and then when you integrate, then you start experiencing all the little parts in between. So even a quantum leap is like, actually, you're kind of just like, it's like instead of starting on that end of the buffet, now I'm like starting on this end of the buffet. And the universe is like, cool, like we still are going to breathe through this like one breath at a time. And I do feel that plant medicine gives us these moments of, it can be many things and all things. And two of those main things are, I feel that sometimes we get, this big snapshot, and then people experience the wound of like coming back and feeling like, oh, like if it's something where you're like going like really like deep into source and you're just there in it, sometimes there's a separation wound of people coming back and they feel like they failed. And they're like, well, I couldn't stay there. Like when you bring that more into the body, it's like, oh, well, I couldn't stay in the bliss, I couldn't stay in the joy. And that's not true, right? And so there's that feeling of like this misconception of, I don't know, like that's not who you are already. Because if you're seeing that exists within you. You're going inside of your body, you're going inside of your mind. And so I think you get to realize in that moment, yeah, you're already perfect as you are. And then also you get these snapshots of like, yeah, like the quantum leap of, whoa, this is coming for me.
Yeah.
Like I just received something about the future. Like I can see where I'm headed. I may not know exactly what that's going to look like, but I really feel that. And then like you can get fixated on it or something, or like feel like you have to do something to make it happen. And it's what I am really preaching these days, which is that it's just like down the river. You're already floating down the river. The tree's already growing. It's gonna develop. Like the fruit's gonna get there eventually. So yeah, we just get to enjoy this journey of life, and the journey is beautiful, even if it feels like you're not going on a wild journey. You're still journeying. It's the life. Like this is what we get to look around and breathe into and experience every bit of.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, those glimpses of the future that we get in ceremony, I've definitely had that experience of like coming back and then being like, oh gosh, like I want to be there. Like I know I can. Like I know this is within me. And again, it's just, yeah, the timing of it, because now I do feel that. I'm like, oh, I'm in that joy now. And I remember being only in it for like a day and then falling back into these old ways of being and being triggered out of it or something. And yeah, feeling like, oh, why can't I do that? But trusting that it's on the way. And knowing like if you do start focusing on something, or all of a sudden you're like listening to the podcasts about it, or you're reading the books about it, or now you're meditating every morning with a specific manifestation in mind, or whatever it is, it's like that's happening because you are close to it, like these things like come into our reality. Everything that's happening in our reality is just a reflection of showing us where we are. And then the more focus we put on something, the more we get ready for something, the more that we're then calibrating to something. And we are always going to get it anyways, right? Like our desires, to me, I believe desires are premonition. Like our desires for something, a true heartfelt, deep desire, is actually just telling us what's going to happen. And then our desire for it leads us to take the actions that will support it happening, which is always going to happen anyways. So it's this energetic frequency calibration always. And so these are the tools and the things to do to bring yourself there. But the divine, the universe, is also reaching down to pull you up to it at the same time. So, yeah, it's really an incredible journey. And I'm in love with it.
I'm so in love with it. Thank you for walking this journey with me and sharing some of yours today. I really am very passionate about these kinds of conversations, and yeah, just that we may share how we experience reality and the different like courageous leaps that we take in this life and why and what that creates, and that even through these ups and downs, that it's all perfect, you know, like that you've, yeah, it does suck to go from being like, oh, I'm in this state of joy, everything is perfect, I feel so amazing, you know, like you reach those moments, and I've noticed that more of that starts to weave for me in the more simple and subtle ways throughout my life, which is how it starts to just like be the golden thread. But yeah, when you come off of them, it does feel like you did something wrong almost at first. And then, yeah, through this conversation, I really feel, just the important message of that it's all perfect. All of the feelings, all of the journey, and there's no end goal. We're just here. We're doing it. Just as we started, we're doing it.
We're doing it.
We're living.
We're living. Yeah, it's like the goal for me is just in the present moment, like the present moment, to feel gratitude. When I come back to the present moment, no matter what else is happening, future, past, whatever, I just tune into my body and I'm like, oh, I feel good.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation and for the beautiful energy that you hold in the space that you create, and the opportunity to share and to channel beauty and truth and light into the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you. It's been traveling in this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to share it. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, my handle is at Ayala Sophia Love.
How do you spell that?
AYALASOPHIALOVE. That's the best way to find me, really. Yeah, and I work a lot with Bobinsana and other medicines, and so if you feel called to learn more, you can feel free to reach out to me on that. Yeah, I also work one-on-one with people, and I have a book that I published.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's called The Wisdom of Innocence. I call it the feminine hero's journey, like the hero-ess's journey. And that's available on Amazon. So, yeah.
Yay! Oh my god, I had no idea you had a book. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, published while I was here last year on 222.
Okay, friends. Well, check out Ayala's book. So I'll include her information. And yeah, thank you for being on this journey as we all grow as humans together. And listening in, I'm curious to hear what you think. We will talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Be sure to follow this page and give the show a 5-star rating or whatever kind of rating you like. To show some support, share about it on your socials, spread the word so that we can continue to share this message with love. Blessings.